we are to calculate the total resistance of these three resistors in parallel. We have a DC source. I did not specify a voltage because we will not be using that. Now, we have R1 being 13 ohms, R2 being 5 ohms, and R3 30 ohms. The formula for calculating the total resistance of these three resistors in parallel is 1 over total resistance RT equals 1 over R1, resistance 1, plus 1 over resistance 2, R2, plus 1 over resistance 3, R3. So, 1 over RT is 1 over 13 plus 1 over 5 plus 1 over 30 ohms. Now we're going to do that calculation. But before we do that, we would have seen earlier that when we had two resistors in parallel, we could use the product over sum rule. Now that product over sum, as it is, would not work in this case, and let us see why. Now, it might seem at first that the product over sum, saying that RT is the product of R1, R2, and R3, R1 times R2 times R3 over R1 plus R2 plus R3 could work, but it won't. Alright? We had derived the product over sum using two resistors, so let us just take a moment to derive it for three resistors. You see, when you say 1 over RT is equal to 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3, the LCM of R1, R2, and R3 is going to be R1, R2, R3. Then you're saying R1 into R1, R2, R3. If you put R1 here, R1 will cancel and leave it R2, R3. Alright? So you would have R2, R3 times 1, which will give you R2, R3 plus R2 divided into R1, R2, R3. R2 will cancel itself, leaving R1, R3. If you put this over R2, R2 will cancel, leaving R1, R3. So what you would have is R1, R3 times 1 up here, giving you R1, R3. Plus, if you divide R3 into this, R3 will cancel and leave R1, R2. So when you multiply the R1, R2 by the 1 up here, you get plus R1, R2. And then, what you would have, oh, this was 1 over RT. When you say that this is 1 over RT equals all of this, you find the reciprocal of both sides, where you put numerator as denominator and denominator as numerator. You would have RT over 1 equals R1, R2, R3. So you have a product at the top, but it will be over. And then you would have R1, R3 plus R2, R3 plus R1, R2. So the simple product over sum, as I have up here, would not work. And it would be somewhat complicated to remember and also to work out. So we'll just stick with the 1 over R1 or over RT is 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3. Let's erase these things over here. So remember now, the product over sum, just use that for two resistors in parallel. Once you pass two resistors in parallel, that can be used. Don't bother to attempt to use that, alright? Don't bother using the product over sum for 3 or more resistors. So now, we have 1 over RT equals 1 over 13. Now let us just use our calculator to work these things out. So 1 divided by 13, that's 0.077, 0.077 plus 1 divided by 5 is 0.2 plus, and then 1 divided by 30 is equal to 1 over 30 is equal to 0.033. 0.033. I'm keeping to at least 3 decimal places while working out. When I'm finished working, I can round off to less than 3 decimal places. So all of this will add up to, let's find out what it will add up. They all will add up to. So we have 0.077 plus 0.2 plus 0.0333 equal 0.310. Alright, 0.31. Then remember, this is saying 1 over RT is equal to 0.31 over 1. When you find the reciprocal of both sides, you'll find that RT over 1 is equal to 1 over 0.31. So what does all of this amount to? Let us see. 1 divided by 0.31 equal 3.2 ohms. So total resistance is 3.2 ohms. So again, it's less than smaller than the smallest resistance here, as we see, because if you had the 5 ohms alone, you'd have a resistance of 5 ohms. That's how hard or easy it is for current to flow. When you add R1, it makes it easier for current to flow from the source, because some current can flow down here. And then when you add R3 now, it becomes easier because we have 3 different paths to flow now instead of 1 or 2. So the resistance, total resistance of this resistors is 3.2 ohms.